Thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Yolanda Francisco Nez, and I'm the Mayor's Office Coordinator of Diversity and Human Rights. And tonight we are gathered together to talk about use of force in Salt Lake City among our police force. And we really appreciate, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to listen to the voices, particularly of those of you who are spending enormous amount of your evening to come and be with us tonight. Now, the agenda for this evening is going to look like, first we will have a welcome from Mayor Ralph Becker, and then I will come back and tell you what the plans are for the dialogues themselves. Again, I hope that everyone is here and we can hear tonight to offer their voices on the subject matter of police use of force. Thank you again very much for being here tonight. I turn this time over to Mayor Ralph Becker.
Thank you, Yolanda, and thank you all so much for being here tonight, for joining us on this most important discussion for our community. And I want to especially thank John Mejia, who's going to talk to you about the legal foundation for your rights. And I'll be turning the time over next to Councilmember Kyle Malfa. I notice we have District Attorney Sim Gill here. Sim, thank you for taking another evening with us. We obviously have a number of members of our police department officers who are with us tonight, so thank you as well. And you'll see a number of us around the room. I think today there are a few issues, if any, that are probably more important in our community. Is this working? Great, thank you. There's a few things that are more important in our community than the trust between our community and our police officers. And I can tell you from my years of service in this job, we are incredibly fortunate with the police officers we have. I saw Chief Burbank come in here with Chief Burbank because they have recognized and I think imbue in the policies and the procedures and the training in their effort an aspiration to be known and accepted and have this sense that they are here to protect us. And by us, I mean all of us in the community, and equally and without regard, without distinction. That is not an easy job. Having spent 6 months, that was about as much as I could take in my life, working as a law enforcement officer, it gave me an appreciation for how difficult that job is. I also know that there is probably not a person of color who has not felt they have been profiled and picked on by law enforcement. And that is unfortunate. And as unfortunate as the incidents we've seen around the country, I think what it has allowed us to do is to elevate both the kind of discussion we're having tonight and we had a few weeks ago, but more importantly, to take a much closer look at how we operate in the community, both from the governmental side with our police and others who interact with you, and look for ways we can improve what we're doing. We have, and I know you've heard, those of you who participated in the last dialogue, know that we have a whole series of procedures built in. And if there are ways we can strengthen those procedures to make sure that people have a right and due process if they feel they've been wrong, to have a check and an independent check outside of the police force. And that's both done through folks like the District Attorney, Sim Gill, but also through a civilian review board beyond an internal investigation that occurs within the police department. But the foundation for any success in a community when it comes to policing is that relationship with our community. So having you know your rights, and I so much appreciate that John Mejia with the ACLU is going to start really with that this evening. And then having you help us understand how we can take that foundation that we have today and build on it, whether it's changes in our policies, whether it's improvements in our procedures, whether it's improvement in just the way we focus on training last time, but in the way that we interact with the community that builds further confidence, then we're all going to benefit from this conversation. So Yolanda, thank you so much. You've really played the lead role with others I know in setting this up for the Sorensen Community Center, with Chris out here for hosting us. I'm looking forward, as I know is true in the last set of dialogue, to both a good conversation, but then for us to be able to learn from that and improve what we do, so that foundation of trust in our community is something that I think we have today to a very large extent, that we can build upon and strengthen. So thank you for coming. Thanks for your participation, and I'm looking forward to seeing the outcomes. Now let me turn the time over to Councilmember Carla Malfa. Of course, represents this district and has really been such a strong advocate for the community throughout this and so many other efforts.
Thank you, Mayor. Round of applause for the Mayor. I notice that we have Police Chief Chris Burbank in the back, and also our representative, our local representative to the state legislature, Angela Romero, is here. I saw her in the lobby out there. For those of you who aren't residents of District 2, welcome. The Sorensen Unity Center is a showpiece of our community, one of them. And it has truly earned its place in our community in living up to its name, the Unity Center. It's a place where difficult conversations have been engaged in, and although we haven't solved all the problems of the world, we are proud here that we can have open and sensible dialogues with one another to take us closer to solving the problems of the world. I hope tonight we can have a great dialogue with authenticity and with heart as we confront issues that have been troubling not only us as a community, but us as Americans. I know that there is a conflict within our own community in terms of whether we are police officers are over-enforcing the laws here or under-enforcing the laws here. And even the perception, though, that people are receiving inequitable treatment is a cancer on our community. And I notice there are people from a wide diversity of communities here, both ethnically and geographically. And I know that there is strength in diversity. And that's one of the proudest parts of representing District 2, is the strength we have in our diversity. I guess I'll keep my remarks short, except to say this: for anyone who is a resident of District 2, there is currently an opening on the Police Civilian Review Board for a resident of District 2. So if you're interested in serving a role on the Police Civilian Review Board, please approach me or a member of the administration. We'd love to get your application in the system and perhaps help you be a part of the solution. And with that, I'll turn the time over to Jeff. And thanks again for being here.
Thanks, and I'll be brief so we can get to the dialogue, and most of what I'm going to say is covered by the card, and there are copies available on the table in the back in English and in Spanish, along with a longer pamphlet and then a complaint if anybody would like to file a complaint for us. I'm, again, John Mejia. I'm the legal director of the ACLU of Utah. We're a nonprofit organization that works to defend the civil liberties and civil rights of all Utahns. I think we're a pretty small office, but we try to make as big of an impact as we can. So tonight I'm just going to briefly talk about your rights when you're stopped or questioned or arrested by law enforcement agents.
Speak in the microphone. Thank you.
Better?
Much better.
I would just say at the outset, this isn't legal advice, but these are just generalized guidelines based on court holdings and the text of the Constitution itself. So first of all, what's your right? What are your rights when you're stopped by police, immigration agents, or the FBI? Well, first you have the right to remain silent. And that, when you are invoking your right to remain silent, do so clearly. And if you want to remain silent, remain silent. Don't start answering questions. If the police continue to answer questions, you're not under any obligation to do that. You have the right to refuse to consent a search of yourself, your car, or your home. If you are not under arrest, you have the right to calmly leave. You have the right to a lawyer if you are arrested. Ask for one immediately and clearly. Again, I have to emphasize, it's not here, but emphasize that any sort of equivocation is not a good idea. Be clear. I want my lawyer. I'd like to speak to my lawyer. I want to be silent. Because the courts have said, well, if you're not so clear about it, maybe you didn't invoke it. Invoke it clearly if you'd like to invoke it. And remember that regardless of your immigration or citizenship status, you have constitutional rights. And just for the context, I also want to make clear, it's not here, but you do have the right to be free from unreasonable use of force by police officers who are arresting you. I can't say a lot about that because it depends on all of the circumstances, right? The word is reasonable. So you have to take into account all of the circumstances to decide whether there is, whether the use of force is appropriate or not. But there are clear lines, right? I mean, everybody, common sense will tell you what's reasonable or unreasonable. And you, of course, have the right to be free from being racially profiled. Everybody is equal under the eyes of the law. So police may not use race as a factor in deciding whether you are a suspect in a crime. And that's the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. Your responsibilities, if you're speaking to the police or they encounter you, please stay calm and polite. Don't interfere or obstruct the police. And again, you're not obstructing the police by remaining silent or asking for a lawyer. Those are your rights. Do not lie or give false documents. Be prepared in case you ever get arrested. Try to remember all of the details of your encounter with the police and file a written complaint with the police themselves, or you can write to us if you feel like your rights have been violated. And I'll just sort of talk a little bit more about that. So again, if you're stopped for questioning by the police and they start asking you questions, do stay calm. Don't argue with them, resist them, obstruct them. Even if you think that you're innocent, keep your hands where the police can see them. They don't know you necessarily, and so you don't want to give them a reason to be suspicious. Just try to stay calm as much as possible. You have the right to ask if you're free to leave. And if they don't suspect you of a crime or have probable cause to keep you there or to arrest you, then you do have the right to leave. So we do, if you feel comfortable asking a police officer, am I free to leave? If they say yes, you do have the right to calmly walk away and not answer questions anymore. You, of course, have the right to remain silent, which you can't be punished for. There is a slight exception to that here in Utah. Police are allowed to ask for your name if they believe that you are committing a crime or going to commit a crime. And we advise people to give their name if the police have identified a crime that they're suspected of. You don't have to consent to a search. If the police think that you might have a weapon, they do have the right to pat you down. But if they want to go further than that, they need your permission if they don't have probable cause, and you don't have to give it to them. If you're stopped in your car, stay in a safe place. You do have to show your driver's license and registration and proof of insurance. You can refuse to look a search of your car, and they need to have probable cause to search it anyway. And if you're a driver or passenger, you can remain silent. And then just quickly, immigration is a little bit different. You do have to, if you are not a citizen, if you're a legal resident or have another legal status, you do have to carry proof of that and show that. If police or immigration agents come to your home, the first thing you can do is ask if they have a warrant, and if they don't, you do not have to let them in. And even if they have a warrant, you're not required to answer questions if they come into your house. And then, like I said, I want to keep it brief, but when you're arrested, your rights to remain silent, your rights to an attorney do not go away just because you've been arrested. You get to make your phone call, and you should clearly ask for an attorney. Again, there are special immigrations for being taken into ICE custody, but the bottom line is, even if an immigration officer is questioning you, you still have the right to remain silent. You don't have to sign anything if you don't want to, especially if you don't understand what you're signing. And there is a process for everybody, including immigrants who may be undocumented. You still have the right to process. And if you feel like your rights have been violated, again, even if you think what the police are doing is wrong, we don't think that you should be physically resisting what the officers are doing. At the point where they've decided to arrest you, you're just gonna, the most advisable thing to do is go along with that, and then later on you take care of your complaint. Because it's really going to escalate the situation if you respond with physical force or screaming or yelling. Then we would suggest that when you write down everything that you remember, get as many details as you can about the incident, get the badge numbers, get the names, write down everything that they said, write down everything that you said, and then you can file a written complaint with us. You can consult with an attorney. You can file a written complaint with the police department that you were dealing with. Unfortunately, Salt Lake City is one of the few, well, fortunately for residents of Salt Lake, but unfortunately for the rest of the state, Salt Lake is one of the few places in Salt Lake that has a civilian review board. We are advocating having a lot more of that to make sure that police statewide are more accountable, and also pushing that the police board here have more review power and more teeth. So that's sort of my overview. I do want to let us get to the discussion, but I will be around and happy to answer questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much, John. Now is the time for us to actually begin our dialogues, and I want to just share with you kind of some housekeeping items before we move forward. In each of the circles, there is a facilitator and a scribe, and if they could just raise their hand, they're going to make introductions, but if they could raise their hands as to who they are, that would be great. We do have a section for Spanish speakers, a facilitation that can move forward in that process if you would be interested in moving to the circle here. I do want to say that we have our public television, SLC TV, also in the room, and so they will not be filming each of the sessions, but they are currently filming and will likely make a broad scan of the room. And I'm not sure that we have any media present. We do have a couple of media who are also present, and or three, that will also be taking photographs. I want to let everyone know that this is the third of a set of dialogues that we've conducted. Our first one was held in the Salt Lake City Library auditorium with a forum. Second one was a couple of weeks ago at Lincoln Elementary School. And this will be our concluding dialogue on the police use of force. Once this dialogue is complete, our work will continue in-house at City Hall to compile all of the feedback that is coming from these dialogue sessions, a literature review, and a report with recommendations that will be submitted for consideration to both the mayor and city council. This report will be available to the public, and you're welcome to access it. As soon as it's published, it will be published on our slcgov.com website. If you are interested in looking at and viewing any of the previous dialogues that we've had, in particular the full dialogue of the first forum that we had on use of force, that is currently available on the city's website. If you don't have time tonight to make a comment in your circles, you're welcome to fill out and complete a comment card that we have available. We have a table out here that is set up with materials that Mr. Mejia has brought forward from the ACLU Utah that is available in both English and Spanish, but we also will have the comment cards out there. You're welcome to fill those out and turn them in either to your facilitator or I. Now we'll go ahead. We're gonna move into dialogue, and your facilitators are going to go through some of the expectations in each of the sessions. We will go all the way to 8 o'clock. Please be conscientious of time and making sure that we have each of the speakers who came here to share and dialogue. Please offer them the space and opportunity to speak. We would appreciate that. If you have any other questions regarding anything around police use of force, please feel free to contact the mayor's office or my office in the mayor's office, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or address any concerns that you may have. Thank you again for being here tonight. We will now begin our discussions. If you have questions, if you could ask me later, because we've got to move into these sessions.
It's a question about the format, so it won't do any good to ask me later.
We have our facilitators.
Okay. Well, I think there's people in every group that would appreciate it if Chief Burbank and the mayor maybe went around each group so they could be directly asked some questions.
Yeah, I think so too.
By dividing things up, that didn't happen at the last meeting, so just a suggestion on the format.
Okay, thank you.
Not trying to be disruptive.
Thank you. So now we will go ahead and turn the time over to each of the facilitators. I do want to thank each of you for being here tonight, and we look forward to hearing more of your discussions and issues. Thank you.